What if I told you the most advanced hard drive in human history isn't made of silicon? It's made of dirt, and it hasn't crashed in 60,000 years. We think we invented the GPS. We think we invented the cloud, but we were beaten to it by 50 millennia. Today, we aren't looking at stone tools. We are looking at software. We are hacking the code of the Australian Songlines. Welcome back to the Relic Explorer. Now, before we take another step, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land I am recording on today. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also need to be clear right up front. I am an archaeology student. I spend my days in dusty libraries reading about the past. I am not an indigenous person, and I am certainly not an elder. I am learning this right alongside you. But recently I've been reading research that has completely dismantled everything I thought I knew about the human mind. Usually when we talk about ancient technology, we think of pyramids or Roman aqueducts, so we think of hardware. But the research coming out of Australia suggests that the First Nations people developed a software so sophisticated it allowed them to memorize an entire continent without writing a single word down. We often hear songlines described as myths or folklore. But according to researchers like Dr. Lynn Kelly and Margot Neal, that is a massive undersell. We need to reframe our thinking. We are looking at the GPS before Google. Let's start with a problem. Imagine you are dropped into the middle of Australia 50,000 years ago. No iPhone, no map, no books. You need to survive. To do that, you need data. You need to know the location of every waterhole across 2,000 kilometers of desert. You need to know the medical properties of 500 different plants. You need to know the law, the genealogy of your neighbors, and the navigation routes to trade with tribes on the other side of the country. How do you remember all of that? You can't write it on a Post-it note. If you forget, you die. This is where the genius comes in. You don't store that information in your head. You store it in the land. Margot Neal, the senior Indigenous curator at the National Museum of Australia, describes songlines as corridors of knowledge that crisscross the entire continent. Think of the land as a giant library. Every rock, every tree, every bend in the river is a book on the shelf. As you walk the land, you are reading the library. Dr. Lynn Kelly calls this a memory code. And to understand it, we have to look at something you might have seen on the TV show Sherlock, the Memory Palace. If you want to remember a grocery list, you imagine walking into your childhood bedroom. On the bed, you imagine a giant red apple. On the desk, you imagine a screeching monkey holding a banana. In the closet, you imagine a burning flag. To remember the list, you just close your eyes and walk through the room. You don't try to remember, you just see it. The apple is on the bed. The monkey is on the desk. Now, take that concept and steroid it. Dr. Kelly argues that indigenous cultures don't use an imaginary bedroom. They use the real world. They wrap the information into a song, and they attach that song to the landscape. So, when an Aboriginal person walks a songline and sings the song, they aren't just humming a tune. They are reciting a navigational script. The lyrics might say, "At the rock shaped like a lizard, turn left towards the setting sun. The water is under the ghost gum tree." As long as the rock is there, the data is safe. It's an external hard drive that never runs out of battery. But this isn't just about not getting lost. This is where the stakes get incredibly high. In her book, The Knowledge Gene, Dr. Kelly talks about why this information has to be restricted and perfectly preserved. Imagine you are walking through the bush. You see a bush with red berries. One of those berries is a superfood. It will keep you alive. The other berry, which looks exactly the same, will stop your heart in 3 minutes. The only difference is the time of year it fruits, or the specific way the leaves curl. You cannot afford for this information to be Chinese whispered over the centuries. You cannot afford a glitch. If the song changes, if a single note is wrong, your children die. That is the pressure this system was built under. That is why it is flawless. Because it had to be. The elders are the strict librarians who ensure no one messes with the database. And the system goes beyond just biology. It essentially functioned as a passport system. Think about it. A songline often crosses through the territory of many different language groups. If you know the song, you have the password. You know where the water is, but you also know the diplomatic protocols. You know that this rock marks the border. You know that this river requires a specific ritual to cross safely. If you don't know the song, you are an intruder. You are trespassing. This means the songlines created a continental network of trade and diplomacy. It allowed goods, like ochre and toolstones, to travel from the center of Australia all the way to the coast, passed hand to hand along these corridors of song. It wasn't just a map, it was a political treaty, etched into the earth. Now, let's look up, because the database doesn't stop at the horizon. If the land is the map, the sky is the clock. I was reading some fascinating work by astrophysicist Ray Norris and cultural astronomer Dwayne Hamaker. They explain that songlines often have a mirror in the stars. The most famous example is the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades star cluster. There is a massive songline that tracks the Seven Sisters across the continent as they are chased by the constellation Orion. But this isn't just a bedtime story about stars. It's a seasonal calendar. For the people in the Western Desert, when the Seven Sisters rise at dawn, it signals the start of the dingo breeding season. For the Yolngu people in the north, the position of these stars tells them exactly when the berries are ripe and the fish are running. It acts as a giant rotating almanac. If you arrive at a food source a month late, it's gone and you starve. So the songlines link the ground, where the food is, to the sky, when the food is ready. It's a fully integrated GPS and calendar system. So, how accurate is this GPS? I was reading an article in Spatial Source about the Superhighways of Sahul, the ancient continent. Modern researchers used computers to model the most efficient walking routes across Australia. They looked for the easiest gradients, the best water sources. And when they overlaid these computer-generated routes with the ancient songlines, they were a match. But here's the part that gave me chills. Next time you're driving down a major highway in Australia, like the Monaro Highway or the route across the Nullarbor, look at the asphalt. Then imagine peeling it back. Underneath that black tar is a dirt track, and underneath that dirt track is a song. We think we built the road network, but really? We just paved over a navigation system that had been operational for tens of thousands of years. We are driving on the memory tracks of a civilization that mapped this continent long before satellites existed. And it's not just space, it's time. We tend to think oral history is unreliable. We think it turns into a fairy tale after a few generations. But geographer Patrick Nunn has studied Aboriginal stories that describe the coastline being miles further out to sea than it is today. These stories describe walking to islands that are now separated by deep ocean. Geologically, we know the sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age, about 7,000 to 10,000 years ago. That means these stories, these memories, have been accurately transmitted for over 300 generations. We struggle to remember what happened in 1066. This system has preserved accurate data from the end of the Ice Age. Margot Neal calls this the third archive. We have the Western Archive, our books and servers, and we have the Indigenous Archive, the country itself. And this archive holds data on climate change, geology, and biology that Western science is only just catching up to. But what if you need to carry data with you? What about handheld devices? This is the part that the archaeology student in me loves. We often find carved wooden boards, stones with intricate lines, or Coolamons, wooden dishes, in museum collections. We usually label them as ritual objects or art. But Dr. Kelly suggests we should look at them as portable memory devices. Think of the Tjuringa, sacred stone or wood objects carved with geometric patterns. To an outsider, it looks like abstract art. But to an initiated person, running their finger along those grooves is like reading a Braille textbook. The circles might represent campsites. The lines might represent paths. By touching the object in a specific sequence, the user can recall vast amounts of genealogy, law, or songs. It's tactile memory. It's a physical hard drive you carry in your hand. Dr. Kelly actually tested this herself. She was skeptical that a human could remember so much just by looking at objects or walking a path. So she tried it. She created her own songline around her neighborhood to memorize the countries of the world by population. She used a portable device to memorize the history of the universe. And you know what? It worked. She memorized thousands of data points. This proves that this isn't some mystical superpower unique to one group of people. It is a human superpower. It's the way our brains were designed to work. We have just forgotten how to use the software. So, why does this matter to us right now? Because we have outsourced our memory. We don't remember phone numbers. Our phone does. We don't remember the route home. The GPS does. But the songlines remind us of the incredible, untapped capacity of the human mind. They show us that we are capable of remembering everything. Every plant, every star, every law, if we encode it correctly. Maybe as we explore the relics of the past, we should stop looking for just broken pots and stone tools. Maybe we should start listening. Because the greatest relic isn't buried in the ground. It is the ground. And the song that sings it. This has been the Relic Explorer. If you want to have your mind blown further, please go read The Memory Code by Dr. Lynn Kelly or Songlines, The Power and Promise by Margot Neal. Until next time, keep digging.